If I was to make a video entitled 5 Reasons Why I Left Christianity, I would inevitably get dozens of people telling me that I was being disingenuous and that I was lying. When I spoke to my family members about the fact that I was having doubts in my faith and that I could no longer believe, they would in effect say, okay, but what's the real reason why you no longer believe? According to them, the real reasons are that I am proud and dishonest, I don't want to be accountable, I don't love God, I only want to disprove things, and I'm bitter. The unfortunate reality for anyone who chooses to leave a high control group or a religiously devout and zealous Christian community is that you don't get to decide the reasons why you leave. Their religion does. I'm going to take each of those 5 claims that my family put forward as to why I left Christianity and assess whether there is any truth to them or not. And then I'm going to examine why there exists such a great chasm between the reasons I put forward as to why I left Christianity and the reasons that they claim are true.
Harrison Covert is no longer one of Jehovah's Witnesses.
You have your preset, and that is your approach. In life, to progress in learning, a person needs the 3 H's: honesty, hunger, and humility. At the moment, you are not being honest with yourself and have not got humility. Each person I know who has done similar is very proud and thinks they are cleverer. When I saw this in an email, it came as no surprise whatsoever. This was a line of reasoning that was drilled into my head from a very young age. If someone was going to listen to me on the ministry, study with me, and get baptised, they would need to have the 3 H's. They would need to be honest, hungry for the truth, and humble. This means that if you've ever been called on by Jehovah's Witnesses and you didn't eventually convert to the religion, you are in essence dishonest, not hungry for the truth, and proud. In fact, we used to regularly sing at the Kingdom Hall,
We offer to all men the choice to hear or proudly refuse.
Those words encapsulate the black and white, good versus bad, us versus them mindset that they possess. And after spending 25 years inside the organisation, now standing outside of it, I can judge for myself whether they apply the Bible's recommended method of acquiring truth. Proverbs 18:17 states, "The first to state his case seems right, until the other party comes and cross-examines him." In other words, don't take what one person or one organisation claims to be true as fact without first listening to other viewpoints on the topic. If that person or organisation is in fact telling the truth, then it will remain true no matter how much it is cross-examined and scrutinised. Is that the Jehovah's Witness approach? No. Not only are debates heavily discouraged, but they believe that their leadership is God's sole channel of communication on earth, and that everything else is the product of Satan and his wicked system of things. But as my dad labelled me proud and dishonest, let's just isolate one topic and compare my approach to finding truth with his. In a message to my brother, he stated, "Harrison no longer has the humility to believe in God." Unfortunately, this is another classic example of the black and white thinking that exists within a large part of Christianity. If you're a theist, then you're humble. If you're an atheist, you're automatically proud. Is that really true? Well, here is a selection of 5 books, many of which written by prominent Christian apologists, which I really enjoyed reading over the years. At the time, they built up my confidence that the biblical God does exist. I know that my dad would have no problem reading any of these books. But in order to follow the advice of Proverbs 18:17 properly, I need to cross-examine my beliefs to make sure that they're correct. And so here is a selection of 5 books which I also read. These are written by professors, biologists, and prominent atheists, which offer an alternative perspective. I know for a fact my dad would never go near any one of these books. He wouldn't touch them with a barge pole. Why? Well, in conversation with my brother, he said, "Can I send you a book in the post?" To which my brother said, "Yes, that would be fine. as long as I can send you one back in return. Not even knowing the title of the book that my brother was going to send him, my dad immediately replied, I would not read any book claiming Jehovah isn't my father. I know he is. Seeking confirmation bias to reaffirm to ourselves that our beliefs are correct and that we are intelligent, while ignorantly discounting any contrary opinion, is an act of pride. It reveals that instead of being hungry for the truth, we are merely hungry for self-validation. But on the contrary, being able to hold your hands up and say, my beliefs are incorrect and they need to change to correspond with reality, is an act of honesty and humility. Harrison doesn't want to be accountable, to be told there are right and wrongs. When my brother first told me that my dad had said this regarding me, we both looked at each other puzzled as to why. My dad knew from my time inside the organisation just how seriously I took the religion's policies and the Bible standards. I didn't smoke, I didn't drink, I didn't gamble, I didn't commit sexual immorality. And if you compare my life now to how it was when I was inside the organisation, there is no difference on those regards from their viewpoint. And so we both immediately recognised that this was a blatant lie. But we can ask the question, why is it that this line about non-believers not wanting to be accountable comes up so frequently from Christians? Well, it stems from a real ignorance about atheism and secular morality. Members of high control groups and other devout Christians spend very little to no time with non-believers and atheists. Among the Jehovah's Witnesses, you're told not to develop any close friendships with anyone outside the group, and so your existence is merely within an echo chamber. If they did spend time with atheists discussing topics such as secular morality, they would soon find that it's not even possible for an atheist to view themselves as accountable to any god. This is the equivalent of me saying to my dad, I know the real reason why you don't celebrate Christmas. It's because you don't want to be accountable to Santa Claus, to be told there's a good list and a bad list. Contrary to what many Christians believe, since leaving Christianity, one noticeable change within myself is an increased sense of personal accountability. No longer can I scapegoat my mistakes and my errors onto anything else. There's no divine means of being absolved from my wrongdoing. If you were to ask a Christian, why did you get drunk and sleep with that person and ruin your marriage? They could say, at work, the bad associate kept on giving me drink after drink, and Satan knew to tempt me when I was at my weakest. And so I'm going to say a prayer to God for forgiveness. As an atheist, none of that makes sense. You have to man up and confront your problems head on. There is no means of abdicating responsibility in your own life. If you could read this article, I would appreciate it. I don't think it will change anything immediately, but it explains the mechanics, as it were, of what and why your faith has diminished. It will also put you in mind of what would have to change for you to regain faith. It does help me at least understand what has occurred within you. 15th of July 1989 Watchtower article, But I Do Not Love Jehovah. This is exactly what I was referring to at the outset, when I said that you don't get to decide the reasons why you leave Christianity. Their religion does. For the previous 14 months, I had been in a constant back and forth email interchange with Dad regarding my doubts. Topics had ranged from how long humans had been on the planet, Noah's Ark, the God of the Old Testament, evidence of design within the universe and on Earth, and personal experiences of God in our lives. But all of that equated to absolutely nothing, to zilch, because he had dug out an article from 1989, before I was even born, which told him exactly what was wrong with me. If I didn't realise it already, at this point I then knew that all the physical, the emotional, the mental toll that I'd exerted and invested into encouraging him to become more open-minded and consider things from my viewpoint was entirely wasted. Now, if as a Christian you can't identify the problem in sending an atheist an article entitled, But I Do Not Love Jehovah, let me pose a couple of questions to you. Why do you hate the Babylonian god Marduk? Why do you love the Greek god Zeus? You will likely say, don't put words in my mouth. I neither love them or hate them because I don't believe they exist. But that doesn't mean that we don't hold an opinion on characters that we believe to be fictional. Luke Skywalker, good. Lord Farquaad, bad. Cinderella, good. The Abrahamic God, I'll let you decide that one. Look, if someone wants to disprove it, they'll find a way to. If this family member is watching, I pose you a challenge. Try your best to disprove atomic theory, or germ theory, or the theory of evolution, or the theory of relativity. And if you're successful in doing so, don't get in touch with me. Get in touch with major scientific bodies and institutes, because you may be in line for the next Nobel Prize. What I've found is that a very high percentage of Christians claim that having beliefs rooted in truth is the number one thing in their life. But when you examine their actions and their behaviour, it's not in harmony with that claim. As in the case of my dad when he said, "I would not read any book claiming Jehovah isn't my father, I know he is." But the fact that this family member said, if someone wants to disprove it, they will, it suggests to me that on some level, they're not 100% certain that their beliefs are actually rooted in truth. But potentially, through fear of where going down that rabbit hole of research might lead them, they will never truly contemplate the beliefs they've been indoctrinated to believe. Because of being bitter over his religion, he has thrown the baby out with the bathwater. I don't think anyone wants to hold their hand up and willingly admit to being bitter, because it's a term within society which has negative connotations. But when you look at the definition of the word, feeling or showing anger, hurt, or resentment because of bad experiences or a sense of unjust treatment, well then that definition not only describes me, but I'm happy to be described that way. Because many people who fit that bill have brought about major positive change and social reform. When you leave the Jehovah's Witnesses and look back in, you realise that this is an organisation which has a lot of blood on its hands. It has a lot to answer for. Its policy of extreme shunning former members, the depression, anxiety, and people who have even taken their own lives as a result. The number of children who have died through not having blood transfusions. And the thousands and thousands of allegations of child sex abuse which have failed to be reported to the proper and relevant authorities, through fear that it would bring reproach on God's name, or sticking to stubborn, nonsensical policies. When you sit back and reflect on those three things, let alone a dozen more, how can you not feel a sense of hurt, of anger and resentment, and want to bring about some sort of positive change in society? If you've not heard of the expression, throwing out the baby with the bathwater, what it basically means is that while disposing of something unwanted, you simultaneously got rid of something truly valuable and important. And in this context, that would be getting rid of the Jehovah's Witness religion, and at the same time losing the truly valuable and important Bible, Jesus, God, and my hope for the future. But when someone says this to me, which is surprisingly often, I find it to be both ignorant and insulting. Ignorant because it shows a real lack of knowledge of the process in which I arrived at my current beliefs. And insulting because it kind of presupposes that the analysis of my former religion was the one and only topic that I did. Almost as if I thought, oh, well, my religion's wrong, therefore the whole of the Bible's wrong, and I'm just going to be an atheist. Yet this could not be further from the truth. When I finally decided to address my doubts, I categorised them into three questions. Does the biblical God exist? Is the Bible the inspired word of that God? And are Jehovah's Witnesses the one true religion? I answered those questions in numerical order, doing extensive and unbiased research in the process. I honestly said no to the first two questions before I even turned my attention to the bathwater of my religion. The question I would therefore pose to anyone who says, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, would be, do you have strong evidence to assert that there is a baby? Or do you just believe so because your family and your community do? Even if you've had what you believe to be first-hand experience from God, Jesus, or the Holy Spirit, does that mean that those experiences are real? If a Hindu, a Muslim, or a Jew were to say those same things, you would probably say that they were deluded or suffering from hallucinations. But they would probably say the very same thing about you. What is it that unites all 5 of the reasons that my family put forward as to why I left Christianity? They are all variations on judgments of me possessing a wicked heart lacking faith. And that's despite me either in person or over email telling them the real reasons why I left. What's interesting to me is that this process of leaving a state of ignorance, educating yourself, arriving at new beliefs, and then not being understood by those you've come to know and love in life is nothing new. In fact, it predates Christianity. As Plato said, those who are able to see beyond the shadows and lies of their culture will never be understood, let alone believed by the masses. But what's truly refreshing when you leave a high-control religion or a religiously devout community is that you get to meet up and talk to other former Christians. And instead of hurling misconceptions and lies at you, they will actually listen to you and believe you, because many of them left for the exact same reasons.